First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for meeting with me. I know you're super busy, um,
Okay.
and especially now.
Tell us about your experiences as a student.
My third grade year was great. I had Miss Walker, and she was black, and she was like my first black teacher. And but she was just so nurturing. She was like my grandmother. Um, when I got to fourth grade, I had a teacher um, who didn't have a really good relationship with me, but she was like young and very bubbly, but just didn't like ever. I always felt like there was a disconnect between her and I. Like she never took the time to get to know me. Um, and one day during a show and tell, I accidentally let go of her bird, and it was like a parakeet. But they made it seem like I did it on purpose. So like they sent me to like the principal's office, and he would just like yell down my throat, and he gave me like pickup trash duty. So from there, I noticed like it was always some kind of discipline against me. They moved me out of that class to this other teacher who was like a drill sergeant, and he would just constantly get me in trouble, yell at me over and over and over. It got more serious when he started locking me in the classroom by myself and just wouldn't let me be around anybody. So during like lunchtime, he would lock the door and I would just be in there. Once I walked into class, my name would be on the board. And mind you, I was in a fifth grade class. So I was a fourth grader and they put me in a fifth grade class, you know? And they would just send over packets of a bunch of stuff that I would just have to like pencil whip. And a lot of times I didn't even get through half the work because it was like I didn't know what I was doing. And then he would just give me lines. And then he would just give me detention right after school because I didn't do it. Finally, it just came down to the point to where I kind of had to like stick up for myself. And then that just made it worse. Over the course of that whole year, it was um, like I said, every single day being in detention, I had every single recess taken from me. Lunchtime, I had to sit on my own and eat. I couldn't eat with anybody. So I learned like that I had this idea of like no, I'm not allowed to be around anybody. I can't talk to anybody. So I kind of like started to collapse inward. I started to separate from all my friends. So I really grew to like really hate this person and the kind of person he was. And I remember even thinking like, man, it's only because it, to me, it was because I was black. He doesn't like me because I'm a little black boy. And he doesn't treat anybody else like this. And like I said, like those little things slowly just like I just kept taking it and taking it and taking it and taking it over time. And then I became this really hatred person when I came into my sixth grade year. But I remember just turning into this jerk all the time. And when I think about it now, I'm like, man, the way I acted in school in middle school was because of how I acted in my elementary school. And then the way that just carried through high school.
You mean because of the way you were treated, right?
Yeah, the way I was treated. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was terrible. And I grew up with this idea that I you know I wasn't supposed to be successful at education.
And what was it like for you growing up here in San Jose?
In my neighborhood, there was a separation right in the middle, and that was the way you exited the neighborhood. There was like a Mexican kind of neighborhood, and then there was a black neighborhood. I'm Mexican and black, and the thing about it was like if I was black, I look black, and if I'm hanging out with my Mexican friends, they were already like, you can't hang out with us. Or if I was with the black people, but they knew I spoke Spanish, and knew I was Mexican, they were like, oh, you got to get out. So I was really like kind of caught between these two worlds. So like I said, I had this like I felt like I just hated myself all the time, and there was some like stuff that had happened within my family and people in my family that kind of like um, taught me to hate myself also. Like there was still like a lot of tension between my Mexican side of my family and my black side of my family. Like my Mexican grandma didn't like my dad. She downright called him the N word all the time. Was angry that my mom left off with a black man, and that carried over to all these years. And when we were kids, she never really loved us. Up until the day she passed, we still had this disconnect. So when I was in like high school, I noticed myself like really spiraling down. I became a little suicidal and done. I was done. I was in a dark place. I was like, fiddling with stupid, street economics and crap like that. And it just was taking a toll on me. And then on top of that, now that I'm older, I'm able to identify like, man, I really let the streets eat me up because I wasn't part of this education. I wasn't part of the system that I actually wanted to be part of. Like I really wanted to be like a smart kid. I really wanted to go to college and stuff. And no one really took the time, Like I didn't learn that college was for me. I thought college was for white people and Asian people. I didn't know they were for black people. I knew nobody who went to college. Like I think about it now, I'm like, man, I've grown so much. And yeah, there was trauma, but I don't use that trauma to, feel bad about myself. I really want to use it to teach the students. So when I get into my class and we start that first unit, it's always like, I'm gonna tell you who I was first, and let me open up to you immediately. And I think that really helps.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of educators think they have to, be we have to be professional, right? But there's a way that you can be your authentic self and be professional, right?
Definitely.
And if you
time. But it started very young. When I was 8 years old, I was arrested at 7-Eleven. I was accused of stealing a Snicker bar and a Snapple, and I didn't. I paid for it, but the clerk was just, I don't know, doing whatever. Called the cops on me while I was outside enjoying my snack. And I was only down the street from my house. It was probably like 2 blocks away from where I lived. I lived very close to the 7-Eleven. My dad was fine with it, just walking down the street. Anyways, he called the cops on me. The cops came and they really roughed me up. They put me in handcuffs. They held me up against the wall. They read me my rights. They stuck me in the back of the patrol car for an hour. I was so afraid I peed myself, and they finally let me go. After, kind of like poking fun at me and like, oh, go ahead and get walking home. I cried the whole way home. And then when I got home, my dad saw me and he lost it. He's like, you didn't get the badge number. And I didn't know how to react, but that was when I had to talk, right? Okay, you're a black boy moving through society. This is how you have to be. Ever since then, I feel like when I went back to school, I had this idea like, oh, damn, like this is the world. This is the world I live in. And this is how I kind of have to move throughout. And I just always felt like there's something about me, being arrested at 8, I was arrested again at 10, I was arrested again at 12. I had a long track record for stuff that was very minor, a school fight. I got into a fight with a friend of mine over a girl, and I was arrested, and he wasn't arrested, and I was taken to juvenile hall, and I had to do like weekend juvenile hall anger management classes. And again, when I was like 14, some mall security guards arrested me and they beat me up, and the cops came. It was over a Bone Thugs and Harmony CD that I didn't pay for. And it's like I had all this kind of like, and it just follows you. Once they run your name, and you at 8 years old, you're given a record, and once they run your name and they know who you are and you see your face around, they're like, oh, that's someone who's probably done something. And my dad told me, it's statistically 1 out of 4 black people have been arrested or have a record. And when I did get in trouble for actually stealing that CD, my dad wasn't really upset that I stole the CD. He was like, you just made it hard for every single black boy to walk into that Sam Goody, because now every time they see another black boy, they're going to think about you. And for him, it was more of like, man, look what you did. Look at the effect that you made on the world because of your decision today.
I hear that what your dad's saying, and I know what he's saying, and at the same time, like the first time you were arrested was for stealing something that you paid for.
Yeah. And even to this day, I still have my receipt. I always get a bag, like I still, because of that. And I tried to shake it for many years.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that I'm shocked to hear about all those things that are happening, right? Because whatever, I read the paper,
Yeah.
So, but I will say, we try to pretend like the Bay Area is more woke or whatever, like,
Yeah.
oh, that stuff happens in Alabama, not here, right?
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I know that it does. Um, yeah.
Let me check
Okay.
real quick.
I mean, this question it's a big question. It's a really big question. Um,
Okay.
but the question is, I've seen the way that the kids respond to you, your current students and your former students that are now our students at the high school level.
Mhm.
And they respond to you not just as a teacher, but also just an important person in their life that they care about.
Mhm.
And I know that that's a mutual feeling. Like I can see the way you look at them, right? They're more than
Definitely.
just students to you.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, you've talked about people using the N word in your life and how that's been harmful to you.
Mhm.
And when I hear students using the N word, throwing it around at school like it doesn't mean anything. I know how
Yeah.
that feels for me, and I'm wondering, how does that feel for you to see these kids that you love throwing around that word?
You know, I always try to educate immediately when I hear it, and I'm like, oh, nails in the chalkboard because I don't like hearing it, especially when it comes from someone so young. And I get it. Like I do understand. Like some of these kids grow up in areas where that's the culture, and a lot of these little small sub neighborhoods in San Jose, that's the culture. It's hard to like keep them from saying it. But what I do try to tell them is like one day you're gonna be somewhere and you're gonna say it around the wrong person, and that wrong person is gonna be the wrong person, and they're gonna check you real hard. I mean, and that's why I tell the students, I'm like, here's the thing about that word. That word, the way I see it is that word was created by white people back in the day to create harm to black people, to make them feel lesser of a person, to make them feel ignorant. And we took that word from them. It's like if somebody were to have a rock and they kept throwing the rock at you every single day and it hurt, and you're trying to deflect the rock and it doesn't work and they keep throwing it. Finally, you get a hold of this rock and you're like, nah, would you give this rock back to that person as I'm throwing back at it? No. So black people took that word and said, no, this is our word. We're gonna use it to build our culture, to use in our communities, kind of as like a relationship thing. But now, like when I hear the kids, I'm like, I've gotten kids in trouble for it. I'm like, don't use that word. Like, I made it real serious, walk them up to the office kind of thing, and like, so I try my best to educate the kids. It's really hard because a lot of these kids don't know anything about the word or even like the culture of it. And sometimes even when I hear like the rap music and stuff nowadays, I'm like, man, I heard someone break down a couple of songs, and then even going back to like the songs, like the people who are in like the actual record label owners, they're not like some black dude from the hood. No, they're like this billionaire white guy. It's like there's something going on here. There's a reason why they put this person. And as much as I don't like Tekashi 69, he said it really well. He said, this is a game. And I'm not better rappers as anybody else. I've been put here to make this label a lot of money. Like I bought my number one spot kind of thing. And a lot of people don't realize like the people you see on TV are sometimes just, they're making someone a ton of money and they don't realize it. But then again, like these people who are making this music and making this culture like survive that using that word around so much are damaging the communities, and they're not in the communities seeing it.
I know it happens
Mhm.
around here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know you got to go, but I really, really appreciate you giving me your valuable time. And
No problem.
yeah, and thank you for sharing your part of your story.